World Cup could not have had a more fantastic finish, unless, of course, you're a fan of France. But what an amazing championship game as Argentina emerged from penalty kicks to win that nation's third World Cup title. In Kansas City, thoughts immediately turned to the next World Cup, and we're going to be a part of it. This is SportsBeat KC, the Kansas City Star's daily sports podcast. It's Tuesday, December 20th, and I'm Blair Kirkhoff. On today's show, columnist Vahe, Gregorian, and I discuss what we saw in the last month, but mostly what we expect to happen in Kansas City, one of 11 U.S. cities that will be host to the event that will be held in the United States, Mexico, and Canada. Vahe and I also spoke with a delegation of Kansas City officials who attended the World Cup in Qatar, and they shared their impressions and suggestions about what the event will look like in Kansas City. Star columnist Sam McDowell also part of that conversation. So after a break, you'll hear from Kansas City Sports Commission and VisitKC President Kathy Nelson, Kimiko Gilmore, who is the Executive Director of Convention and Entertainment Facilities for Kansas City, and Joe Reardon, President and CEO of the Greater Kansas City Chamber of Commerce and former mayor of Kansas City, Kansas. But first, here's Vahe on the World Cup. You know, Vahe, you're going to be on multiple podcasts this week. I hope you're sufficiently prepared. I know your carbohydrate got the carbos going.
Yeah, I do, and I wasn't sure whether that would be a nice holiday flourish for this or not, but I certainly have a Lamar's donut and a really great, a little old but really great mint brownie right in front of me. I'm going to try not to take any bites while we talk, but thank you to Hannah Wise of the Star for providing.
I'd never had a mint brownie until Hannah brought those in last week for an office party. I recommend the mint brownie to those that want to explore beyond the usual brownie.
Yeah, and I don't have I don't have a brand name on it, but I will also say that Tuesday night around 11, when Sam McDowell and I were in here typing away, brownies kind of got us through the finish line.
As they often do.
Indeed.
And of course, Lamar's Donuts represented on the plate as well.
The cinnamon minimum, and
you're missing your cup of coffee though. Maybe we'll have to stop so you can go get the coffee.
I'm a dunker. Go ahead.
We're recording this the day after the World Cup final, in which Argentina beat France. In fact, I think they beat them 3 different times in that game. It was an amazing game. The World Cup, the competition of the World Cup was incredible. And the final was, people that know soccer better than we do are calling it the best final that they'd ever witnessed. And so I know I was enthralled by it. And, having maybe the 2 best players on earth going at each other. And, I know that the countries were ranked 3rd and 4th in FIFA before, but as the tournament proved, they were the 2 best teams in the world and provided just exquisite drama. And Argentina, of course, outlasting France 4-2 on the penalty kicks. And of course, as soon as it was over, as soon as the celebrating is over, it's one of the great celebration scenes too when you win the World Cup with the trophy presentation and all that. My thoughts turned immediately to Kansas City and us, right?
Yeah.
And this is the only time it will ever happen that way. But I cannot wait for Kansas City to be part of this.
Yeah, I feel like you're right. The lid kind of came off of that, right? We've been kind of like, okay, well, it's the next, and now it's, in the queue. And, the conversation that we had just a few days before, I think, maybe started bubbling this up for us with the Kansas City executive committee members who went. So I think we both probably were watching this a little bit through that eye too. I should know this, but I don't know. And we turned right to the Chiefs game yesterday. With the Olympics, one of the cool things at the end with the closing ceremony is always the ceremonial transfer of I don't know. There's not a scepter. I don't know what it is, but
the flag. But the flag.
Yeah, the Olympic flag.
Right.
Yeah. And there's a sort of tangible, okay, we're on to the next, the handoff. I forgive my ignorance for not knowing if the World Cup has that, but at least figuratively it has that. And you're right. I imagine people with KC 2026 woke up today, Monday, like, all right, the field is now open for us, and we got to start filling stuff in.
Yeah, for sure. You mentioned the conversation that we had last
Friday, a week ago, 10 days ago.
Okay, all right. That was with Kathy Nelson, president of the Kansas City Sports Commission and president of VisitKC. She's wearing two hats these days. With Kimiko Gilmore, she's the executive director of convention and entertainment facilities for Kansas City, and Joe Reardon, who is the president and CEO of the Greater Kansas City Chamber of Commerce, and he's the former mayor of Kansas City, Kansas. Great conversation, I thought, with them. You were there, Sam McDowell was there, and I was there as well. And they had all just come from Qatar. And Qatar, the rest of my life, I will not know the correct pronunciation of that country. We even asked them.
And the agreement there was that it was sort of a hybrid of Qatar and Qatar that sounds a lot more like Qatar. So I feel liberated to just say Qatar, but
or just Doha.
Yeah.
But we spoke for almost an hour and a half, and you wrote a terrific column that appeared in Sunday's paper. Please go to kansascity.com to access that column. You'll actually hear from them after a break here in the show. We'll play about 10 minutes worth of the conversation that we had with them. But what were your big takeaways from talking to the group that had just come back?
A couple things, and try to get into this in the column a little bit, right? Because in a sense, it's really hard to take the smallest, a World Cup placed in an area the size of Connecticut versus what's going to be more spread out than ever before, right? The most broadly based, I think it was 13 million square miles or something in U.S., Canada, Mexico.
It's half the Western Hemisphere, right?
Yeah,
it's the non-South American part of the Western Hemisphere.
Yeah, exactly. and so just that is just such a completely different experience and contrast in density, right? Scope and scale, all that. But also, obviously, the cultural difference from what you could take there versus here. So in some ways, it's apples and oranges. On the other hand, the essence of the competition, which we can only hope we get something like what happened yesterday. I mean, that was enthralling. I mean, really, my gosh. But also our ability to absorb it and, for lack of a better term, shine the best light on Kansas City when it's here. So we understand we're not talking about having the entire competition in Kansas City. Wouldn't that be something? But given the format and the fact that it'll be 48 countries instead of 32, the numbers suggest we're going to have at least 3-4 games and perhaps more. But also, as you noted during our interview speaking with them, there's the likelihood of multiple base camps for countries set up here. So the density thing is a little more thick than maybe you would think of offhand, right? I think we're going to be in the middle of a lot of hustle bustle with the games and the fan fests and the base camps and training sites, which are, as we come to understand, aren't necessarily to be used the same way by any given country. So it's and Kathy Nelson, our friend with VisitKC and the Sports Commission, quoted from FIFA saying that we look like a base camp mecca with what we have from sporting and the current, particularly with training sites and game facilities. So anyway, if I'm rambling, it's because I'm just over the moon, and yet we have a lot of details to fill in to really understand the overlay on Kansas City.
And 3.5 years to do it because of when this World Cup was played. It's the only World Cup in history played in November and December, and not in the usual summer months like it will in 2026. It'll be a June-July event there. And you're right, we don't know how many games Kansas City is getting, and how far into the rounds Kansas City might be considered for games. But 3, 4, 5 games at the least, with the potential for 1 or 2 more. That's kind of exciting, right? And of course, the one thing that came up on several occasions as we had our conversation was Kansas City is the smallest market, smallest in population, metro size of the U.S. cities. The 10 or 11 U.S. I think it's 11 U.S.
11,
cities.
I think. Yep.
Yep, 11 U.S. cities that will be World Cup hosts, and I think because of that, there's really. I fall back on the Norman Rockwell painting. There's a little bit of the roll up the sleeves,
yeah.
And let's prove to everybody that we can get this done. And those who we talked to, Kathy, Kimiko, and Joe, were just excited by the prospect of putting their best foot forward for the world to see.
Yeah, absolutely. And boy, what a great reference. In fact, I'm not sure maybe that doesn't belong up on the side of a wall, at least for the next 3.5 years, right? As a message to everybody to get it in order. And we certainly feel the excitement of understanding the world is coming here. So the next part of the mechanism is not only to be good hosts, but what is it that we will be able to show and develop toward that, right? Joe Reardon, as we've spoken about, made what I thought was a really compelling point about, okay, these sorts of moments in a city's history are opportunities to think about how we do things and what we can do going forward. And he sort of spoke about it in a generic sense about transportation from the airport. What's interesting, this is another point of contrast with Doha. There's nothing that we're not building 8 stadiums for this.
Correct.
We're in fact the most expensive aspect of this, at least as it's all placed on some kind of ledger, apparently is going to be the renovations at Arrowhead. So where's the money coming from? Where's it going to go, et cetera? But this can do Kansas City a lot of good if it's treated as a way to create more sustainability and transportation. We've talked about that a lot in multiple contexts. So I'm not sure if I'm answering your question, Blair, but that's what I think of when I think of this.
Well, and I think Kansas City will, because of our size and our infrastructure, probably will end up approaching this differently than New York or Los Angeles or Mexico City, right? Cities that are, gazillion people. Our list is different.
Yeah, and I'm glad you rerouted me, because really that's sort of the part of the really interesting extra point about this is I think we could say Kansas City, as the smallest market, and as what Kimiko Gilmore called the most exotic market, right? In the context,
love that.
I know, I do, I really do love that, and
but she's got a good point.
She does. I don't know what the exact definition of exotic is, but I assume different is the point, right? And different than coastal cities and the familiar that people probably mostly, let's just say randomly from Argentina or France, might identify the United States for. We're different here, and so you can sort of just put that together logically and say, between the size and the difference in topography or with geography, that Kansas City quite arguably has the most to gain from this, at least in terms of brand visibility, awareness. Plus, I think I know we don't work for the Chamber or VisitKC, but I think we feel pretty proud of this place and like our chances to impress the people that come here.
Right. I know I feel that way. That I kind of can't wait to have people from around the world come to Kansas City, have a reason to come to Kansas City, and they're not just coming for a weekend. I mean, they're going to be people from different parts of the globe that'll be here for weeks. For weeks and weeks, yeah. And I think that's the part that's probably at some point we need to just do a primer or primer, however you pronounce it, to say Qatar or Qatar. Same thing.
A primer on Qatar or a primer on Qatar, and just sort of lay out some stuff that I think we've covered it in the things we've written, but I think it might bear mention as a sort of public service, reader service, to say, this is going to be a month of setup, if not more, before this is happening. So that means, the security perimeter at the Truman Sports Complex, whatever entities are in there at that point, that's going to be going on for a month. Probably, as we've spoken about between us a few times, looks like there's going to be dedicated bus lanes.
Yeah, transportation
probably needs to be transportation in general.
Probably the biggest issue.
So how are you going to work with that? I think we would hope that we can spare people from being shocked about things that there'll be some annoyances, right? Which is sort of the trade-off with having something, the largest sporting event on earth descend on you.
That's how you've never had that, because you're about to be inconvenienced in a way that you never have been.
Yeah.
Just think about if I-70 was closed for snow or something. It might be that way for a month in the summer of 2026.
Yeah, and so I fully expect. I don't know for sure, but I would imagine some people will probably rent their houses out and get out of here, and make a lot of money from it. I don't want to encourage people to leave. The other side of this that I've noticed this from a couple friends already, wanting to be involved, and they're going to need thousands of volunteers. We don't have the link right here with us, but if you go to KC 2026, they are already soliciting names for volunteers. Right. And I can tell you from, some incredible experiences at a lot of Olympics, that your interaction with the city, with the host, a lot of it you feel through the volunteers, because you're going to end up lost. You're going to end up not knowing how to get from one place to another. You're going to be greeted at stadiums. You're going to be pointed directions. Those are all going to be, I think, interactions with, our people.
With us.
Yeah, with us.
Yeah. Didn't Kathy and Kimiko and Joe say that they couldn't walk 10 steps off the bus?
Yeah, I think 10 steps off the bus without 10 people.
Yeah.
It was something like that. The ratio was pretty good. Now I think Qatar had 21,000 volunteers. And that, again, the operation's just different parameters because of was it 9 venues? 8 venues?
Something like that, yeah.
8 or 9 venues within a 35-mile radius. We've got one, and what's the closest city? Dallas? What else?
Yeah, that's hosting. That's also hosting. Yeah, it would be
closest
Dallas,
host city. And, again, I'm veering off here, but, so we're going to have a 4-hour range of hotel blocks reserved for this, from St. Louis, Omaha,
Wichita,
Tulsa, or I'm not sure if Oklahoma. Yeah, Tulsa's about 4. So that's our one per. But I think Kathy Nelson definitely confirmed it'll be thousands of volunteers we need, several thousand. And really, it's an interesting way for people to think they can get involved. Like, I can be an ambassador for Kansas City.
Right. I really was struck by Joe Reardon's feeling about how proud he was, and how proud he expects to be in 2026. That Kansas City will absolutely rise to the occasion and be the best place it can be.
Word that came up a couple times, and it was a striking word because it's an accurate word. I think it is entwined with whatever we think of ourselves as here, authenticity. And Joe used that word a few times, and I think it's a great selling point because it's a true selling point.
Absolutely. Hey, before we get to that panel of folks that we've been discussing, I wanted to just take a moment and say a couple words about Grant Wahl, the American journalist who died covering the World Cup at age 49, and it was unbelievable when that news hit, and it was especially tough for people in Kansas City who, that's where Grant Wahl's from, went to Shawnee Mission East High School and loved the city. He worked when he went to work for Sports Illustrated out of college, out of Princeton. College basketball was one of his beats, and that's where I would run into him, covering NCAA tournaments. Our paths hadn't crossed in 25 years, I suspect, but it was fun to talk with him about Kansas City, and when we did get to chat, and just a stunning development. And I just wanted to. We all wrote about him. You did, Sam McDowell as well, and the thought that stayed with me in the sort of the aftermath of the news was nobody would have enjoyed the World Cup in his home city more than Grant Wahl, and it's a shame it's not going to happen.
You're right, and that's why another sort of point of this day, right? We've turned the page toward 2026, and there's a hollow, sad feeling about that from a lot of people, and as it pertains specifically to the U.S., but more intimately to us here. Shawnee Mission East, like you, fortunate to get to know him a little bit on the trail. He was always a guy who was looking to help you. Yep. I mean, that's we're blessed that there are a number of people like that in our business, but nonetheless, that stands out. And I'd urge everybody to make sure they read Sam McDowell's two just superb columns on this, including speaking with Grant's brother Eric. That was well done. The piece I wrote, not because of anything I did, but because of the input of Chris and Angie Long, I think might be of interest to people because it'll help you understand the role that Grant played in the formation of the KC Current as a Princeton classmate of Chris Long and Angie Long's, and a high school classmate of Angie's. There was no one they trusted more with key steps along the way, and Grant just kind of stayed behind the scenes, which sort of, for someone who is so well known to do so much behind the scenes is kind of, I think, pretty extra cool to understand that.
That was a great story, and I didn't realize the depth of the relationship between Grant Wahl and the Longs. And I remember thinking again in the days afterwards that I don't know if a sports writer who's associated with a sport that he covers was more respected by the sport that he covers than Grant Wahl was when it came to soccer.
That's a great way to put it. And one of the things I talked with Angie and Chris about this, that sort of exactly to your point, and then some. So respected by his subjects, respected by maybe he had authority at times, was frustrated by him, but they had to respect his integrity, and respected by his colleagues. It's hard to have all that, right? Because sometimes one thing maybe means a little less of the other,
right?
Just that way. And so for him to be, universally seen that way. And again, Angie pointed this out, that the morning after his death, she said there were 207,000 distinct tweets about Grant Wahl.
Wow.
207,000. When she first said it, I was like, well, I gotta, let me think about that. But Grant had like 1 million Twitter followers, and you saw, from LeBron James to Becky Sauerbrunn to, so many.
Indeed.
So many foreign journalists too. So, yeah, you're right. And they were, Chris and Angie were reluctant to try to get into this too much right away, but because they want to talk to Grant's wife Celine about this. But I'm pretty assured that Grant's name will be in some way a notable part of the new stadium. And I would expect in some way he'll be a notable part of the KC 2026 World Cup.
That's amazing to hear. That's great. Okay, let's take a break. When we come back, you are going to hear from Kimiko Gilmore, as I said, the Executive Director of Convention and Entertainment Facilities for Kansas City. You're going to hear from Joe Reardon, President and CEO of the Greater Kansas City Chamber of Commerce and former mayor of KCK. And, of course, you'll hear from Kathy Nelson. You'll recognize her voice immediately. Kathy, of course, President of VisitKC and the Kansas City Sports Commission. Thanks, Vahe.
Thank you, Blair.
Hey, this is Blair. There are several ways to access the Star Sports section. Let me tell you about a couple of them. There is Sports Pass. For $12.99 a month, you get unlimited digital access to all of the Star Sports content, including beat writing, columns, features, pretty much everything we write. The deal renews monthly until you tell us to cancel. For $159.99 a year, you get everything the Star has to offer digitally, including sports and the e-edition. Go to kansascity.com and drop down to the bottom of the page where it says Start a Subscription for more information. Your support has never been more important. As always, thanks for reading and listening.
And Joe, what you mentioned about, because I think one of the things that a lot of people in Kansas City, they just don't know what it's going to look like here, other than like maybe the match experience. They might have an idea, but if it's the wrong idea, they probably at least have something in their head.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But just like the during the week stuff that you mentioned, as far as taking advantage of other people want to explore the city and stuff. So how will Kansas City maybe look different than it does like today on a Friday afternoon, knowing that there's going to be a lot of people?
Yeah, now it's hard because the scale of this thing, there are so many people in
because you
Doha,
had a
right?
ton of people in the same city.
Right, but if you think about the number of people that will come here, when outside of the matches, there will be an activity level, particularly in our core city, that will be like nothing we are used to in modern times, right? Mm-hmm. And the activity is going to be incredible. And, our assets that are out there, like the Nelson, it's going to be an incredible showcase. And they're going to be interested in seeing it. That's what I realized when I was there. Mm-hmm. They're going to be hungry to see the place that they're in a way that, if you're coming for, a regional tournament or something, you might already know Kansas City and you've seen all that before. These people are all brand new to this place. Mm-hmm. And they're going to take it all in. And that's going to be a big opportunity for us.
And one of the things I learned is that the Midwest is very exotic to international travelers. So they're going to want to see, this is very intriguing to them, that Kansas City is a part of this, and they're going to want to just explore everywhere. It's going to be amazing. Yeah.
And we've had some conversation about, do you do a First Friday every Friday during the month?
Yeah.
Do you do a Boulevardia every Saturday during the month? Do you do, so some of that's going on, but we're going to have to ramp up.
I think the other opportunity, this is just in my mind's eye, but thinking about the curiosity about this Midwest city and what it's all about, but I think it's a chance for us to showcase our cultural diversity.
Absolutely.
Just think about those corners of our city where there's a culture here that you might not assume is in the center of the United States. Exactly. I think that could be really quite exciting, and the authenticity of that won't be very hard to activate. It's there already, and there'll be a great interest in it, I think.
Yeah, the old Northeast is very excited about this because you have all of these different nationalities that are represented there. And I feel like they're going to be very involved on whatever level. I think we're going to get a lot of volunteers, from all these different countries that are right here in Kansas. I feel like Kansas City is going to show up so well. Our people are going to be very welcoming, and we are going to be ready in that way. Once again, transportation is the one main thing that I want to make sure is working seamlessly. But I know we can do this because we have this much time. We have the right people in place. With Kathy's leadership, I just feel very comfortable with that. We can pilot so many things right now. We don't have, it's urgent because it'll be 2026 in 2 minutes probably. But we're going to be very focused on making sure that everything works. I think NFL draft is going to be our entree into that. That's going to be a pilot for a World Cup. I feel good about it, and I'm going to remain optimistic. Cautiously optimistic.
There you go.
Yes.
I'm very excited. I think there's an authenticity to this place that's going to showcase in an incredible way to the people that decide to come here. And whatever we can do to sort of in this, there's 16 match sites to embrace the world, to try to attract those folks to, the smallest market in the United States.
Yes.
We get those people here, and they're going to find out the secret of Kansas City. That's going to be an amazing moment for us. There's no doubt. The other thing that's take away from me, and we haven't been able to reflect, is just how much this city has intentionally built this infrastructure that leads to us being able to land this. And it goes back it goes back to Arrowhead. It goes back to Lamar Hunt and the decision to make to build this world-class venue for American football. And 50 years later, the dividends of that stadium pay off in the sense that without it, we wouldn't have this World Cup.
Right.
Exactly.
Right? And it's all those other building blocks. And in Doha, they had to build so many things from scratch, right? But the soccer facilities we have, those aren't purpose built for the World Cup.
Yeah.
They're built for Kansas City. They're built in a way though that they can attract something like the World Cup. That just speaks to the longevity, I think, of the city and its commitment to sort of build infrastructure that's world-class in nature, and you can be the smallest market and compete. It's really pretty cool. And seeing those facilities and understanding ours, seeing them in Doha and understanding ours, we're up to it.
Yeah.
I mean, we're up to the match, and that's great. I mean, that made me very excited.
Another,
I was just going to say, one of your goals when you get this is to try and show off Kansas City to the rest. But it seemed like you were really struck by the fact of how possible that's going to be because of the fans' willingness to integrate.
Yeah.
Yes.
into
Yes.
the city.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that I didn't know what that would be like. I didn't know if a fan would just go and it's all about the match day and then that's all. It's not. It's
Yeah.
about all of it.
Yeah.
And that really, that means the opportunity for us is even bigger than I thought.
And all of our businesses have to be ready, just ready to accept whomever comes in their door, and they have to be able to reflect a little bit of FIFA in everything that they do, because you'll just have people wandering in. You have to be set up and you have to be ready. Yeah.
and I noticed it kind of irritated me, and then I thought, well, that was pretty clever. So Las Vegas was promoting hard during the matches. They're a FIFA sponsor, so they were having these visit Las Vegas. I'm like, are you kidding?
Right?
And then I'm like, light bulb.
Yes.
Yep.
we
We
should do
have to
that
start
too.
doing that.
Yes.
So putting my VisitKC
Yes,
hat on.
exactly.
Absolutely.
How do
Exactly.
we attract those, even if, say, Germany never makes it here to Kansas City to play? How do we attract those visitors when they are here
Yes.
to fly to Kansas City?
That'll do it for today. Thanks to our SportsBeat KC production staff of George Howard, Monty Davis, Randy Mason, Jeff Rosen, and Scott Chasen. Tip of the cap to Vahe Gregorian and Sam McDowell for sharing their insights, and to Kimiko Gilmore, Joe Reardon, and Kathy Nelson for providing a look into what's in store for Kansas City in 3 years. Morning Sports Edition is the nation's top digital sports section. Take my word for it or not, but I'm right. Check it out for yourself at liveedition.kansascity.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back soon with another SportsBeat KC, where we talk sports in Kansas City every day.